Today I'm going to show you how to make a really tasty pan-fried pork chop. Let's get straight into it. Now let's go! First, we need to talk about choosing the pork chop. First of all, if you can find it on the bone, that is definitely preferred. Just try to avoid those lean pork chops that just have no fat on them. They're just gonna dry out no matter what you do. You see this pork chop with all that fat, all that marbling, there's a lot going on. This is what we want. The next thing you need to do is temper these pork chops. Tempering just means pulling it out of the fridge a certain amount of time before cooking. For these big, almost 2-inch thick pork chops, I'll leave them out about 40-45 minutes before I cook. The main reason you do this is to help the protein cook evenly. Doesn't matter if it's duck, steak, chicken, pork, whatever, tempering is key. Next step, just dry them off best you can. Moisture is the enemy of a good sear. You lose your sear, you lose your color. You lose your color, you lose your flavor. Remember it. Now, to prevent this from curling while we cook it, we're just gonna push through that fat cap and make a couple big scores. Next, I'm just gonna rub these down with some olive oil. That's just gonna help the seasoning stick, which is the next step. So get that everywhere. Next, we season with some of my famous rosemary salt. I'll drop a link in the corner right now for this recipe. It's just kosher salt blended with rosemary, sage, lemon zest, and garlic. Season, get some of that seasoning around the pork chops, all the way around. Next, some finely ground Sergeant Gilbert, that's just pepper. Now on the way to the other side, just dip up those edges in the seasoning you put around the pork chop and then do the other side. Bring a pan up to a high heat. If you're not sure about what pan to use, just find the thickest, heaviest pan you have, and generally that one is gonna be the best. Just avoid those like really thin, cheap pans, man. That is not what you want. So just a little avocado oil. We don't need much because there's a lot of fat on that pork. This is really just to start the process. You see the smoke? Now we're ready to cook. And so first what I'm gonna do is just hold these together and just sear that edge. Give that 2-3 minutes and then drop the pork. Cook about 4 minutes. That is what I'm talking about. And flip. Oh yeah. Cook for another 2 minutes, then add in some crushed garlic. At the same time, turn the heat all the way down. Little knob of butter going in. When that butter starts to foam, tilt the pan back and baste. 2 minutes of basting, then I'm gonna add a little bit of thyme and a little bit of sage. So the heat has been low this entire time, right? And so our butter is nice and brown, but not burned at all. And it brings out these beautiful, nutty, almost toffee-like flavors that then get dispersed all over your protein. Another 2 minutes of basting, then we're gonna rest about 7-8 minutes. Now empty out all the fat in that pan, but don't throw it away because this is gold. Now same pan on medium heat, we're gonna add orange juice. Make sure to scrape all that fond off the bottom. Reduce by half, and then we're gonna add balsamic vinegar. This may seem weird to you, but if you make it, you'll understand. Now we're gonna reduce by half again and then start adding cold unsalted butter. When that's thickening up and looking almost like a syrup, we're gonna start working in our cold unsalted butter. That's just been cut into little cubes. So keeping that heat low, little by little, just work this butter in. When the first batch is worked in, add a little more. Keep going. When all that butter's worked in, you'll see it's nice and thick. Now kill the heat, and we finish with a little more black pepper, finely ground, and just a tiny little sprinkle of rosemary salt. Sauce done. Let's plate. Now to carve up these chops, we'll just first take off this bone, follow that all the way down to get this other bone. That's out. Now let's take off this cap piece. I can already tell it's gonna be perfect. Now we just slice it up. Oh man, beautiful. Feels unbelievably tender, I'll tell you that much. The cap, oh yeah. I'm telling you, that is the best piece. Pork down, spread that out a little bit. The cap pieces over here, and just finish with some of that beautiful sauce. A little over and around, happy days. Let's give this a sample, oh my God. I'm going straight for the cap, because that's how I roll. I've made this so many times, and every time I'm shocked about just how well that works. The pork has this amazing crunch on the outside, crispy fat with this juicy, succulent interior, and this sauce kind of plays like a sweet and tangy sauce. Sweet from the orange juice, tangy from the balsamic vinegar, and the salt from the rosemary salt, of course, amazing. I wish you could try this. Well, you can. Here are a couple side dishes I think would work very well with this pork chop and this sauce. And if you're new around here, consider subscribing if you want to learn how to cook, because teaching is what I'm good at. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Until next time, you know I love you, and I'm out.